Hey friends, Stephanie here, and I'm going to be showing you how to make a wreath kit using a 10-inch square sign, a 15-inch wire work frame, one roll of mesh, and this particular kit has 4 rolls of ribbon. But whether you're using this exact kit or any kit that contains one roll of mesh, this method would be perfect. And we'll talk about the size of the sign as we move forward. For this particular one, I'm also going to need 4 pipe cleaners, some floral wire, and I use 22 gauge floral wire. I use a rotary cutter to cut my mesh, however, scissors will work fine. I have wire cutters, and I have a staple gun. I also use hot glue, just a little bit of hot glue when I go to attach my sign, and I will show you that as we move forward. So again, whether you're using this particular kit or any kit that has one roll of mesh, this method will work perfectly for any kit that contains one roll of 10 or 10.5-inch mesh. If you purchase the October 31st kit, my ribbon may look a little different, but I still have 3 1.5-inch ribbons and 1 2.5-inch ribbon. So to begin with, I'm going to remove the jute straps on the back of our sign, as we will not be needing those for our wreath kit or our design. I'm also going to remove the tag from our wreath frame. Before I get started, I like to get a visual of where I'm going to place my sign. So you have lots of options when you're designing your own wreath, but I like to do it on the bare frame so I know about where my pipe cleaners will go. So if I'm going to put my sign directly in the center of my frame, my pipe cleaners will be attached to the back of the sign in all 4 corners, approximately right here and here. However, I like to do my signs a little cattywampus, so a little off-centered. So this one in particular may only need 3 connection points, which will be right here behind the sign where it meets the wire frame here and here. So those would be my contact points where I'm going to add a pipe cleaner. And again, I like to do this before I add the mesh so I can see exactly where my wires are at. And I place my fingers where they need to be and I turn it over. And I'm going to start right here. So I'm going to take a pipe cleaner. I do use an electric stapler just because the older I get, the more my hands appreciate the ease of an electric stapler. If you are working with a sign that does not come from Festive Creations by Stephanie.com, please note that these 1/4-inch staples that are in here will not go through my signs. However, if you purchase a sign from some other vendor, you may want to do a test area before you go stapling. I'm also going to put a pipe cleaner right behind where that B is, and those will be 3 points where my sign's going to attach to my wire frame. I like to put a little bit of glue on top of my staples, just as an extra security, that if one would come loose, it gives it a little extra support, just in case a staple would come out. I don't want my sign coming loose in the future for myself or my customer, depending on who I'm making a sign for. So I'm going to set this aside, let that glue dry until it's no longer sticky, and we're going to bring out our mesh. Our mesh that I'm using is actually a fabric mesh. I love working with fabric. It's a very good quality mesh. It's soft on the hands, softer on the hands, and it holds up really well in outdoor elements. If you do not have a cutting mat, you may want to just use scissors to cut this, but I'm going to stretch this out to 20 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut 20-inch strips, and we're going to need a total of 18 of them, because on this wreath frame, there are 18 pencil ties. So we're going to need 18 20-inch strips of mesh. Cut it at the 20-inch mark and continue until you have all 18 cut. So if you cut your mesh at 20 inches, that should use almost the entire roll of mesh. Now I'm going to take our wreath frame, our work frame, and I'm going to open up all the pencil ties before I get started. Now that I have those opened up, we're going to take our mesh, and you'll notice that it naturally wants to curl a particular way. I'm going to turn it over so that the curl is downward, and I'm just simply going to start walking up the center of my mesh with my fingertips, and I am ruffling it right between my thumbs to where I, when I'm completed, have a ruffle that looks just like this. Once I create my ruffle, I'm going to use where the cut edges are at. They're going to face downward towards my table. I'm going to place that ruffle right into my wire frame on the outer rim. For this method, I always start on the outer rim, and I give it a couple of twists once I add it to the frame. One important thing is that when you're adding it to your frame, you want to push your mesh as far close down to the frame as possible. So let's do that again. And also, I find that when I use this method, if I skip every other pencil tie, it lays smoother. All right, so I've got my ruffle. I'm going to lay it horizontally. I'm going to skip one and put it right in this pencil tie. I'm going to push that down as close to the frame as possible and give my ties a couple of good twists. Then I kind of spread out my ruffle. Now I will go back and place this one. So it does make the flow of your ruffles when you skip every other one. So the third one will lay right on top of the first two. All right, now we have the outer rim of our frame completed. We'll now begin to repeat the same process on the top row. And please keep in mind that all mesh will fray. It doesn't matter what kind of mesh you get, it will fray. The big key thing with mesh is the less you handle it, the less it will fray. The better quality mesh does not fray as much as a lower quality mesh. So the kind of mesh that you purchase or you're using does make a difference. So we just repeated the same thing. We added a ruffle now to the top. I'm going to skip this one and do one here and come back and add. So here is a great example of using one roll of mesh, and look at how full this wreath frame is by using the 20-inch strips of mesh and one in each twist tie. It's a very full wreath. Also, the thickness of it, you'll notice that it's not super thick. Right now it stands about 5 inches tall. All right, let's take our sign. And again, for this one, we're using a 10-inch square sign. But if you can imagine, no matter what sign you're using, you might be using a 12-inch sign. And I'm going to actually bring another wreath down here. So the method is going to be very similar. This sign was placed at the bottom, a little offset to the side. So that is a horizontal sign. This one is a vertical sign where it's going straight up and down. I offset it. So it's no different than this 10-inch square that we're using. It's totally up to you. Yes, I just knocked something over. Where you want to place it. Once you have your glues dried, actually let me twist these together. Just kind of wrapping them around the little tail. The next step is that we're going to take these pipe cleaners and we're going to feed it through the weave of the mesh. We're not going to separate the mesh and move it out of our way. We want it to go down through the weave of the mesh. If you do try to separate your mesh, what will happen is you will permanently separate it. And then as time goes by, for you or your customer, whoever is the receiver of this item, is the mesh will begin to separate and you'll have gaps in your mesh. So always take your pipe cleaner and go down through the weave. So we're taking this through the weave of the mesh, and then I'm going to turn it over and show you what we do on the back side. So I'm just going to hold on to that while I flip it over. I know it's about where I want it. So what I do is I take these pipe cleaners and I will start wrapping them around the wire frame. And I try to get a couple of different spots, wrap it around. You notice that I'm not pulling real tight on these. Your sign should not be pulled so tight that it is smashing your mesh, but you want it tight enough that it's not going to jiggle around or shake when we turn it back over. I'm going to leave those pipe cleaners there for the moment and check my placement. So right here, my sign is where I want it to be. If I shake my wreath, is my sign shifting? No. My sign feels nice and secure, but it's not pushed down into the mesh. Let's move on to some ribbon. So I'm going to place this off to the side. The ribbon that I'm using may not be the exact ribbon that you received in a wreath kit from us, but it is very similar in the fact that I'm using a 2.5-inch ribbon and 3 1.5-inch ribbons. I'm using my Easy Bow Maker, which we have available at festivecreationsbystephanie.com. And the bow maker actually comes with a spool holder. So I'm going to place my roll of ribbon on the spool holder so that it slides towards me. And I'm going to begin by taking the end of my ribbon and folding the wired side together and giving it a little dovetail. I'm just going to cut that at a V shape. For this particular bow, we're going to have a tail that comes out to about the 7-inch mark on our Easy Bow Maker. So what I do is I will pinch this together, put it down between the two spools on the bow maker, and as I'm going down, I twist this one to where the ugly side is up. So I have a ribbon tail, ugly side up. Then I will loop that around, and I'm going to bring this out to the 6-inch mark. So I'm just going to loosely do a loop all the way out to the 6-inch mark. I'm going to slide this part down into the Easy Bow Maker, but I'm also going to twist it as I'm going down to where I have the ugly side up again. I'm going to repeat that on the other side, a 6-inch mark, give it a twist, and I now have a ribbon tail, 2 loops, and I could easily stop right here and do a ribbon tail. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to make this bow. I'm going to come out to about 6 inches and cut that off. Let's repeat that process. And we're going to do the same thing with our orange and black ribbon, except we're going to come in a little shorter on the tail. So on this one, my tail is going to start out about 6 inches, twist, go down, ugly side up, and this loop is going to be just a tad bit shorter than the first loop, somewhere between 1/2 inch to 1 inch shorter. Repeat it on the other side. Actually, yeah, that one works fine. And give it a snip. I want this one to be shorter than the one before. So what I'm doing is I'm placing a loop here, a loop here, a loop here, a loop here. My tails are just the opposite. I come back and I dovetail these later. Our next 1.5 inch ribbon, we're going to trim that off. This one is also going to be right about the 5-inch mark. And this time I'm going to go opposite again. Loop, loop, loop. Duplicate that on both sides. And our final ribbon. This one's going to come in just a little bit shorter than the last one. So the tail on this one will be a little bit shorter, and I can trim that back a little once we get the bow made. A loop, just about 1/2 inch shorter than the ribbon before us. A loop, and let's cut the tail. I'm going to place that tail that direction. And we now have a 4-ribbon bow. I'm going to take my floral wire. If you don't prefer to use floral wire, you can also use pipe cleaners for this as well. I like the way that the floral wire feeds through my mesh, and I like the way that it holds up for me. It's just my preference. So I'm going to slide that floral wire right down on top of all of those ribbons. And I'm kind of separating that ribbon so I can be, I've got the floral wire on this side and on this side. I'm going to hold that with my fingers as I pull it off the pegs. While I'm holding it, I wrap my wire around the back. I grab it with my fingers and I start giving it a little twist. You'll notice that I'm twisting the ribbon, not the wire. That will actually give you a tighter hold on your bow. Now I can go back and fix my tails and my loops. And don't worry, you'll want to fix them again once you add them to your design. I'll dovetail these ribbon tails that I did not dovetail earlier. There's one more. And now we can add this bow to our wreath. So let's bring our wreath back down here. When you're adding to your wreath, think about the balance of your wreath itself. So what I mean by balance is you want things kind of proportionate in the fact of a visual field. So one of the best lessons that I learned is a triangle pattern or a pyramid pattern. So if you think about this as being the top of the pyramid, a triangle, a point here, a point here, a point here, a triangle shape. So that actually helps me decide where I'm going to place my bow. So now I have a corner of a pyramid or triangle. It's going to go here. And then we're also going to place another bow down here. So taking my floral wire, again, I'm going to feed that through the mesh and bring it out on the back side of our frame. I'm behind the frame right now, taking my floral wire, wrapping it around the wire frame, giving it several good twists. And I'm going to cut my floral wire back here, and I'm going to push the raw edges of that floral wire back up into my mesh. Ribbon tails can be added into each of the twist ties. We are going to add one more small bow down here so that we have that pyramid shape, but we can also add tails to the wreath frame as well. I can do a ribbon tail taking about a 24 piece of ribbon and 24 inches. I'm just going to pinch there, come around here, give it a pinch. So I've got a loop and a tail. I'm going to twist this, make another loop, twist it again so that the pretty side is facing me. And you can make a little bow and add a bow to it instead of just a V-shaped. So hang on a second. Let me go ahead and cut that. So just by adding that bow into a twist tie, watch what it does to our wreath. So I'm going to put that, maybe not right there. Let's put it over here. And of course, I'm going to dovetail those edges. So now I have that little bow right in there in the twist tie. So that's one way that you could add some additional color. As I said, you can add additional color with either ribbon. You could take additional elements, add them, such as this pumpkin, or maybe a black rose, or whatever you want to do. You can alternate the colors. So maybe I want to bring out more of this beautiful striped ribbon. And again, if you want to do the bow tie method, it takes about 24 inches of ribbon. I like to change things up. So I come up about 4 inches, give it a pinch, make a loop about 4 inches, pinch again, twist, come out, and then I can adjust as needed and twist. And now we've got a little bow tie. I can add that right in here. And now we've added another little bow tie. So it really is up to you how you want to proceed at this particular point. If you want to bring out more color than another, you could definitely alternate your ribbons and use more of a particular color. Let's go ahead and make one more bow so that we have our triangle pattern, and then we'll finish up the wreath. So we're going to make a bow that's very similar to this, except a smaller version. So in this case, I'm going to go back to our 2.5 inch ribbon. And we're going to start making a 5 inch loop on this one. Making these loops just a little smaller than the ribbon before it. This one I'm going to leave at the same length as my orange and black. And let's use some of this fun. This one is going to be a little bit shorter than the loops before. The recipe for your bows can vary. So if you want to do 2 loops of the same ribbon on each side, on every ribbon or only particular ribbon, there are no rules on how many loops or how many ribbons. Making a bow with a solid color also can be very attractive, or not just a single ribbon. So you don't always have to have 3, 4, 5 different colors of ribbon or patterns or styles. A single bow or a bow with a single ribbon is very, very attractive. So again, going back to that pattern of that triangle pattern, here's the bottom, here's the angle, and again I'm going to go down through the mesh with my wires and not separate it. It's up to you if you want to put ribbon tails on before or after. I tend to do, if I'm going to do ribbon tails around my wreath, I tend to do it afterwards, because when I add my bows, I'm covering up a lot of my wreath with the bow itself. So I don't need that extra ribbon behind it with my ribbon tails. And if you're new to this, you will get a feel and a process that works well for you. So I went ahead and just cut some more 24-inch strips because I've decided that I'm going to do bows all the way, the little ribbon tails that we started out with, all the way around. Even though I'm calling it a bow, when you look at it, it looks like 2 loops and a ribbon tail. And what's really awesome is they set really nice in there. They truly do. So let's do a green and black one in here. This is another method that I will use. Look, I'll make it into a breast cancer awareness ribbon. I'll bring this down to the center and pinch. Boom. I have a little bow. It'll go right there in the next twist tie. And we've got loops and tails. I'm going to alternate that with this one. Make the little breast cancer awareness. Bring it down. Pinch it right in the center. And next twist tie. Look at our completed wreath. Again, if you want to take and curl these inward, you can. I did not put ribbon tails on the top because I don't want to take away from all that's happening here. We have a nice color contrast with our white sign and all the fun Halloween colors in this particular wreath. When you are picking out items for your designs, try to watch for that contrast so that you have that focal point and that pop of color in there. All right, guys, I can't wait to see what you make. As always, share a photo with me. Just text me at 217-395-5348. Let me see a picture of your finished design, and you can follow me on YouTube at Festive Creations by Stephanie. You can find me on TikTok at Festive Creations, as well as Facebook, Festive Creations by Stephanie, and visit our website at festivecreationsbystephanie.com.